Welcome to our garment creation series. This is a quick start guide where we'll focus on the key techniques to get you creating basic garments in no time. By the end of this series, you'll have the essential skills to start bringing your virtual clothing designs to life. Let's dive in. First, let's take a look at our 2D pattern reference for our t-shirt. We have the front, back, sleeve, and collar. We will start by selecting the polygon tool in the 2D toolbar. One way to approach this is to place a point at each corner. So let's go ahead and do that. Let's start up here at the shoulder and we'll click to add a point. After we connect the last point, we will see that we created a 3D pattern in the window on the left. In the 2D window, let's change the surface to transparent so that we can see the sewing pattern underneath. Now let's add some curve points to refine the collar and sleeves. We'll select the Edit Curve Point tool and add the curvature. We'll add a few points on the collar and line them up with our reference. After completing that, let's go ahead and do the same process with the sleeves. Feel free to take your time and add as many points as you need. And now if we take a look in the 3D window, we see that we've created the front pattern piece. Let's repeat the same process for the back pattern piece. Select the polygon tool and place a point at each corner. Then we will add our curve points. After we finish the back pattern piece, let's arrange both pattern pieces in the 3D window. Let's move the front pattern piece closer to the avatar. And then let's move this pattern piece to the back. This shaded side of the back pattern piece tells us that this is the inside of the shirt. We need to flip it to the other side so that we can sew it in the proper direction. Select the pattern piece and use the gizmo to rotate it. Now it's time to sew these pattern pieces together. In the 3D window, select the Segment Sewing tool. Hover over the edge until you see a blue line. Click and then move your mouse to the back pattern piece and then click that edge to create a sewing line. Let's also do this for the other shoulder. And then we will connect the sides as well. Once we have finished creating the sewing lines, let's simulate by selecting this arrow in the toolbar. While still simulating, you can pinch and grab the shirt to make any necessary adjustments. Next, we will work on creating the sleeves. Let's use the same approach as before. Select the polygon tool and place a point at each corner. Then we will add our curve points. Add a curve point at the center here, drag up, and then we'll add more curve points to create the bell shape of the sleeve. Before we head back to the 3D window, let's add a point to the center of the sleeve. Select the Add Point Split Line tool. Right-click on the line and select Uniform Split. This will help us in a few steps when we complete the sewing. In the 3D window, underneath the avatar icon, select Arrangement Points. We will use these blue dots to wrap the sleeve around the arm. With the sleeve pattern selected, let's click on the blue dot to arrange the pattern piece. And then let's also use the gizmo to align it and prep it for sewing. Because we added the point at the center of the sleeve, we can use the segment sewing tool to easily connect these sewing lines. Hover over the edge and let's sew it to the front pattern piece. We'll repeat this for the back pattern piece, and then also connect the lines underneath. In the 2D pattern window, select the sleeve pattern piece, right-click, and select Symmetric Pattern with Sewing. This copies the pattern piece to the other side and links the two sleeves, so whatever edits we make to this pattern piece, it will also affect the other. Let's go ahead and sew this sleeve to the base of the shirt. The shirt is almost complete. We just need to add the collar. For this, we're going to do something a little bit different. Open the property editor on the right, select both of these lines, and then we're going to use the 2D line length measurement for our collar. Grab the rectangle tool, left click. For the width, we'll input 58.46, and for the height, 5. And then with the edit pattern tool, let's reduce the height. In the 3D window, let's move the collar pattern piece closer to the avatar. This time when we sew, we're going to use the M sewing tool. This will allow us to sew freely along the sewing line. We will complete our sewing in the 2D pattern window. Select the shirt in the 3D window and you'll see a blue dot appear in both the 3D and 2D window. We are going to use this as a guide for our sewing start and end. Grab the free sewing tool and let's start with the collar of the shirt. And then slide along the collar pattern piece until you reach the blue dot and then click. Let's go ahead and simulate. And then let's pull the collar to the back. Now let's repeat the same process on the back. Let's select the shirt and the collar so that we can use the blue dot as a reference. We'll start with the shirt and then we'll end with the collar. And then let's use the segment sewing tool to sew the ends together. The collar looks like it's a bit too long, so let's reduce the length. In the 2D window, select the Transform Pattern tool, double-click the pivot point, and then let's scale in the width. And then we might need to reduce the width a little more. Okay, that works. And that wraps up part 1 of our Quick Start Guide. With these basic tools and techniques, you've now got a solid starting point for designing garments in Marvelous Designer. The goal was to get you comfortable in designing base garments quickly. In the next part, we will focus on adding details like trim and stitching. Thank you for watching, and we will catch you in the next one.